Hello and welcome back. This is Birth and Baby Talk, and I am one of your hosts, Leanne Palmerston from Hamilton Family Doulas. And with me today is the lovely
Meghan from Family Doulas of Ottawa.
Welcome, Meghan.
Thanks.
So today we're talking about getting outside in the cold weather with a baby.
Yeah, and the video you just showed always reminds me that I think the cutest thing in the entire world are like little tiny babies in like hats and like furry hoods.
I know, with little red noses
I
and
know.
cheeks.
It's so cute. Yeah, so getting outside in the winter is really important as, you know, human beings, but especially as Canadians, where we spend a good chunk of our time in quite cold weather.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, as someone who lives in Ottawa, we always kind of like think we're really special because we always claim that it's amazingly colder here than it can possibly be in the GTA. So we think you guys are pretty wussy, but
yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, Ottawa. I was in Ottawa a couple years ago in the winter during what was a festival? What's the
Winterlude?
Yeah, I think it was winter. Yeah, like there were people dressed up and people, the thing too, like it was bitterly cold, and I was teaching that weekend, and I brought my husband, and we went to stay.
Wait, I feel like I went to that course. I feel like you taught me at that course.
Oh, shit, yes, I did.
I was like, wait a second, Leanne, I was there.
Okay, so remember when I came to Ottawa, and I was wearing like nylons and a skirt because I wanted to be professional. And then in the evening, we went walking around, like we went to a bakery, we went out to amazing dinner with a friend, and everybody we passed was like in a full snowsuit, like adults walking around on literally a Friday night.
Yeah.
With you know, like coffees and stuff in full snow gear. And at first I didn't realize that there was a festival on. And after you guys told me the next day, oh yeah, there's a big festival happening right now, it made sense. But I thought, wow, Ottawa's pretty stinking cold. It's all the adults on a cool, you know, all the cool kids downtown, because we're right downtown. Like, so all the cool kids right downtown are wandering around in full snowsuits. That's how cold Ottawa is.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously,
right now is looking at getting, like, I think Hamilton is looking at about 10 centimeters today.
Oh, nice. I'm kind of jealous. I like the snow if it's cold. Like right now today in Ottawa, we woke up, it was minus, I think 26 with the wind chill, but we don't have any snow. So then it's just like a barren wasteland. Like it's kind of boring, right?
That's not fun.
Yeah.
No one wants to live on the equivalent of Mars.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's cold, right? It's cold in Ottawa. It's cold in Canada. It's cold. So, and we still have to get out. And I think one of the big things about having you know, everyone kind of divides babies like into two groups. There are summer babies and there are winter babies. And parents who have had winter babies have a very different experience having a baby, right? It's very, very different. Not that it's, you know, every baby has challenges, but it's really important, especially for things like mental health, for the parents to get outside during the winter. Also really, really good for the babies too. I mean, you know, vitamin D that doesn't come out of a bottle is really important. Fresh air helps everyone sleep better, including babies. So we like everyone within reason to get out as much as they can.
Yeah.
So there's a few things to remember with getting outside with baby. I think personally the safest thing to do with a newborn or a little baby is to wear your baby when you go outside. So we're going to cover that first. I mean, obviously you can do strollers as well, so we can talk about that. So there's a few things to remember. Temperature is important. So for me, what I think about a safe way to go outside with baby, probably minus 25 is kind of your cutoff. I kind of go with like, we have, because my kids are in elementary school. So I believe the cutoff for outdoor recess is minus 26. I don't know if that's with or without a wind chill. So I always think of that number, though I'm sure there are families who live up north and like Nunavut and who are way tougher than I am. And
Us folks down in the GTA area, like I think in Hamilton, the cutoff is something like if it's minus 14.
Oh my God, really?
Then it's indoor resort.
That's crazy. Yeah. So there are going to be people watching this who probably live way farther up north who are like, that's lame, we can do this. So anyway, just remember, like, there's like some safety issues that go with it. So the rule of thumb too is usually you want to layer your baby with one more thing than what you're wearing. So when I think about baby wearing, you know, usually if I'm wearing like a long sleeve shirt and some leggings, then I'm putting my baby in like their little pants, maybe a onesie with a shirt over top, some socks. We really like, I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They come from Vancouver. They're called pad rags. They're made of wool. They're like little wool slippers with like, like a little, I think it's sheepskin on the bottom. So
we have an amazing company here that makes a version called Josiah and Company. And they're wonderful little crocheted booties.
Perfect. So put those on your baby, because your baby's feet, like especially a new baby, shouldn't like, they should be on the inside of a coat, which I'm going to talk about as well, but just a little bit extra on their feet. I don't worry too much about their hands, because their hands are usually cozied in. Definitely like a little hat for them. We don't want a lot of like skin exposure. So what we usually want to do is get your clothes on, get your baby's clothes on, put your baby in whatever carrier you want to use. It can be a soft structure carrier, a baby wrap, a woven wrap, whatever you want. And then the ideal thing, especially with a newborn, like so under 3 months, is to put your entire coat around the baby. So this is great for a few reasons. First of all, it's easy, right? You're in the house, the baby's asleep. You're like, oh, I'm going to go like for a walk around the block. I'm just going to put my coat around like the whole baby. Also, little babies can't regulate their body temperature very well. So if they're on, you know, mom, dad, caregiver, whatever, you're actually helping them to regulate their body temperature outside in the elements. And it's also a safer way for you to make sure that they're not too cold or too hot, right? Because they're right up against you. So there's a few things there's a few products. There's a coat called the M coat. Basically what it is a coat that comes, you buy the coat, like it's not your coat. So I'll go into like actual extenders for your coat, but it's an actual, like it's a full coat with an extender in the middle, and you can flip it for pregnancy or baby wearing. And then you can take the panel out and you can zip the coat up and just be like a regular coat for later, and the whole coat goes around baby. There's also extenders you can buy for the coat that you already have. So as Canadians, we really invest heavily in our winter coat. So I own 3 winter coats, which I think people think is ridiculous, but I'm very specific about what temperature I wear them at. But also like people spend a lot of money. Like if you buy a Canada Goose coat and you're spending like $700 on it, you don't want to then buy a baby wearing coat or a maternity coat. So there's a brand called Cocoa-Walla. There's Bridge the Bump, and I think those are both Canadian. One is Montreal based and one is Toronto based. And then also I think it's called Make My Belly Fit. So the Cocoa-Walla and the Bridge the Bump are very specific to certain coats. So every coat has a different zipper. My husband popping in for birth and baby talk here. So it's very specific to the zipper on your coat. So you have to match the panel to your coat, which can be a bit challenging, especially in COVID when you're not going into very many stores. So my favorite is Make My Belly Fit, the universal one, because it actually slides on any zipper. So you just have one panel. It can go between coats. It can go between parents, and it zips right into your coat and creates a panel for your whole coat to go around you. So those are I think a jacket extender is kind of like where it's at. I think that's what you should use when you're going out with your baby.
Yeah, super pro version.
Yeah,
I did the less pro version. I had I think it was like a fleece, like polar fleece little inner jacket that was supposed to be for one of my husband's, you know, those multi jackets you can get. So I think it was like came out of that, and we had just been wearing it around, and it was the only thing that would fit around my pregnant belly.
Yeah,
because I was pregnant through the winter and had a very early spring baby. So that when I started to wear the baby outside, outside when it was still cold, because like he was born in April, but he was literally
cold.
a blizzard in April.
Yeah.
So it was the polar fleece. I would wear that under my normal coat, and then I would be able to zip that all the way up over the baby. So when the baby was like cozied up enough in his stuff, then this was the perfect. It was like wearing a blanket around him.
Yeah.
It was like the next best thing to a professional kind of purpose-made coat or insert.
Yeah. And I mean, and I know lots of people who even just use, if their partner is a bigger person than them, they just literally borrow their partner's coat, and that's the thing, is that you don't have to, like, some of these are, like, I think if you buy an actual baby wearing coat, you're looking at like well over $200. The inserts can be about $100. So it's a good chunk of money. But you don't have to. I mean, even if you just have, like, some people, like, I had a friend tell me she went to, I think, Costco and just got like a coat that was a couple sizes too big for her, right? And then just like zip the baby in.
Yeah.
So there's lots of, like, you don't have to spend a ton of money. You just want to make sure everyone's warm.
There's also, I don't know the name for it, but there's the Inuit coat with the opening at the back.
At the back, yes.
I adore those. And I have a girlfriend who has a handmade, I think it's a cream colored Inuit coat.
Oh, pretty.
Like wool with sealskin embroidering and appliques and stuff on it.
Very nice.
Gorgeous.
Well, I bet that is extremely warm, right? Yeah. I bet it's really, really good in the elements. And that's the other thing, is that, culturally, we wear our newborns on our front, right? That's how we wear our babies. That is kind of, the acceptable way to wear a new baby, considered the safest way to wear a new baby. But there are lots of cultures where they wear their babies on their back right from the beginning. And there are lots of different pieces of clothing you can get to do that. You're right, with the opening in the back. Like, we see it in like the baby wearing sweaters.
Yeah.
Which are like, they're more like spring and fall situations, but you can get them, like you were saying, where they're designed for really cold weather, and you can put your babies on your back as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
I also recommend for folks who are going to be baby wearing during the winter, especially when your baby grows beyond the newborn phase and their legs start to come out of the carrier and they're sitting in that frog position. A lot of times, if they're wearing pants, those pants will ride up, exposing their ankles. And it's the same thing in a stroller as well. So I think getting some little baby, like little leg warmers.
Yeah, the little baby legs. Yeah,
baby legs. You can buy things like baby legs, or my absolute favorite, like, and admittedly, I'm a bit of a hippie, but my favorite thing to do is always go to like a thrift store and get an old wool sweater or cardigan that had clearly already been shrunk, and then simply like cut the sleeves off and use the sleeves as little leg warmers. And those are super, super warm, because the minute little teeny tiny, like 6 month size jeans or something ride up on the leg, you've got this little tiny bit of flesh that's going to get super cold.
Super cold. Yeah. That's actually a really good idea. And I think that's a good example of not having to go out and like break the bank buying these really tiny baby things, because you can, or you can kind of find
you can buy lots of cool fun things.
Yeah, all the fluffy
but it's fun
stuff.
to make things,
and I think too, like, I think people are really scared of going outside in the winter with babies. I think they're really nervous, especially new parents. So just start with something really simple, like walk around the block, like go and get the mail. If you're really uncomfortable, then, maybe kind of reassess and readjust. Some people are only comfortable going out when it's like -10. Some people are a bit more hardcore and they go out when it's -25. Not everyone owns a car, right? So that's just the way it is. And they go and they catch the bus with their babies. And so you just kind of have to find a way that it works best for you. So not everybody wants to wear a baby or wears a baby or whatever. Some people like to use their strollers. So the one thing I will say about taking your baby out in the winter with a stroller. For anybody that has not purchased a stroller yet, tires are really, really important. And I made this mistake when I had my daughter and I bought one of those, or it was bought for me. It was one of those Graco travel systems where like the car seat like clicks in, which is a great design, but the tires were made of plastic. Yeah. And anybody who's lived through an Ottawa winter knows that you cannot get anywhere with tires like that. So get the tires, get the strollers that can have the tires that are real, like real tires, right? And I think some strollers, which sounds crazy, you can even buy like a winter tire for your stroller, which sounds ridiculous, but you kind of have to do it.
And I think too, thinking about purchasing a more purpose-made stroller, something that's going to be more rugged and be able to deal with uneven terrain, and multiple surfaces is going to be important. So, when I was purchasing strollers, my very, very first one was a Graco, and so I've had Gracos and Peg Paregos, I believe, was the other one we had. We went through with our second baby, because when I had the first one, I had the option of just like staying home anytime the weather got a little bit rough.
Yeah, you kind of hunkered down, right?
Yeah. But then when I had the second baby, I suddenly had to be walking a kid to school, the older brother. And I literally there was one winter where we broke 4 strollers, and the one stroller was like really friggin' expensive and didn't actually belong to me.
Oh, crap.
I was so frustrated. I literally took a cab like 3 blocks home. I was so upset.
Oh,
I had like a 3 or 4 month old baby with me.
Yeah.
And like, what am I supposed to do? I was stuck in the snow. It's like, a couple of years ago, there was a campaign here in Hamilton to petition the city to put clearing snow or sidewalks back on the public docket, as opposed to relying on private homeowners and businesses to do it.
Right.
Because so many people just found it impossible to get around with little babies.
Yeah, and it's hard too. Like, I mean, if you don't come across like a plowed sidewalk, it's like it's so annoying to get through, right? And then you're trying to like get on the bus, you're trying to get to a store or whatever.
Or if you have the option of walking on the street because you're in a more suburban area, you have to get from the sidewalk to the street.
Yeah.
Corners and things are notoriously full of snow. It's a big pain. If you're lucky to live in an area though where there is some plowing, then definitely get out with your stroller.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the one thing you just want to remember when you have your baby in the stroller is that they're not on you, their body temperature is not being regulated. You're probably not as in tune with their body temperature because they are not on you. So you just, first of all, you want to layer them up really well. You can get those, you don't necessarily need a snowsuit for a little baby, but you need like one of those like bunting bags, or we used to use, there's a brand called Desana, it's from Germany, but it's a boiled wool. Right, you can get it in many places, so like a little wool suit, and then put them actually in an extra, like they're actually like a little, I want to call them a bunting bag too, but they're almost like a sleeping bag.
Yeah, I think they often call them like a muff or something.
Yeah.
So you can get them to wrap around the stroller itself.
Yeah, and then you can, even if it's snowing, I mean, if you don't have a good cover, you can get one of those like kind of plastic covers to go over as well. Yeah, to keep the snow out. So you can absolutely take your baby out in a stroller too. You just want to bundle them up a little bit better and just kind of really maybe just keep checking to make sure that they're at a good temperature as well and out of the wind too.
And remember too, like with a stroller, right? Like when you've got a baby in a carrier, they're against you. So you've got one side of the baby is getting heat radiated to them. And then one side, we're mindful of trying to cover them from the elements. So they often have at the very least, a wind-proof kind of like wet-proof layer around on the other side. when we put them in the stroller, they don't have that heat radiating toward them. And they're often sitting on what is essentially cardboard or flat plastic covered in very thin foam and fabric. So we want to also think about making, like, you know, like babies as they get bigger kind of need to get strapped into a stroller, like when they're sitting up, because when they start to get mobile, they will like try to get out of that.
Get out of the stroller,
But we want to try to keep something under their bums and backs, because those can like get cold really fast because there's so little insulation in the stroller itself.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. I never really even thought about that. It's true, right? Because they're just, and some of those strollers too are like some of the bugaboos in those strollers where they have like, they're actually laying down. It's like a little pram.
Yeah.
Right? So it can be quite cold. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like if you were out on your deck in a snowstorm with a blanket over you, lying on your gravity chair.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing under you. So that's eventually going to get quite cold.
Yes. And the good thing about cold weather is that babies tend to tell you when they're too cold. Yeah. They're less likely to be upset when they're too hot, which is why we always like to pay a lot of attention to that. But if a baby is cold, like you usually know, like if your baby's really fussy and you're outside for that winter walk, you may want to think about turning around and kind of reassessing the temperature and everything. But like if you can do it, I think it's a good choice. I think especially right now when everybody is, living through a pandemic and getting, staring down the tunnel of a long, cold winter, that it's not a bad idea. And you can still too, and I'm sure it's like this in Hamilton and Ottawa, we still do lots of stroller groups because they can be done really safely outside. So in Ottawa, there's one done out of Mothercraft. Okay. And I think there was also like a stroller size one that was done out of Boomerang Kids. So you can still do that outside. And that way you can, meet some new friends and get some fresh air. Yeah.
I think a lot of the walking groups for newer parents here are moving indoors to malls where possible.
Right.
If they're operating at all. Although, it is when you're outside and going for a stroll down a nice like paved water walk, like waterfront walk or something, that it's a lot easier to be socially distanced properly.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I've noticed for parents, like one of the things when it's cold, right? Babies kind of love cold on their face. They really, really genuinely like it. And I think we get a little freaked out because as adults, we're like, when we were walking around, the minute we get cold on our face, we're like, oh, this is awful. Like, this is too much. But we forget that babies actually can enjoy that sensation a lot. So they're usually less sensitive to it than we are.
Right. Yeah.
And if we look at Scandinavian countries, right, babies are often left outside on minus 20, 30 days, all bundled up in their prams just for a nap in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like that's a super, super common practice. So babies are pretty cool with it usually. But I've found that the one bonus of wearing a face mask outside is that it keeps your face pretty toasty.
Oh my God. So my daughter was saying that we were walking to school the other day. It's not a very far walk. And she put all her stuff on. She's 10. She put her face mask on. And I was like, Thea, it's like, you don't have to wear a face mask. Like, we're just walking to school. She's like, no, it keeps my face warm. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Totally.
I was saying, like, this is the modern balaclava now. You don't need to put a face mask on. You just put your face mask on. You're good to go.
Yeah. I was like, that's a great idea. And then I was wondering if it's going to be like scarves, or if you're breathing and it's really cold, is it going to freeze?
I found it's not too bad so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
We went to, we have this bakery by our house, but it's like you just walk up, it's like a takeout window, and it's really cold this morning. And I had my face mask on, and like by the end of it, it was getting like a little crusty. It was a bit frozen near the end.
And I think it's really important, talking about getting outside, just because one of the very first things we always say to new parents who are feeling super stressed out is to go outside for a walk, because the effect of that that vitamin D production from the UV exposure that you get when you're outside, which you cannot get in a house unless you've got windows that were made like 200 years ago. All the windows that are modernly produced, all have a UV protectant. So if you're hoping to synthesize a little vitamin D by sitting in a bright window, you're not going to get it. And, you know, you can go ahead and buy like those amazing like lights for those light therapy lights, which a lot of our, you know, our friends who have seasonal depression often will get those, but it's better to kind of get it at the source if you can, so if you can get outside to get that exposure. It's like, really, you need to be out for 15 minutes, which is like one time around the block, maybe at a moderate pace. You know, and you'll also get a little exercise, which so many of us are not getting enough because we are not getting outside daily like we used to.
And I think too, a lot of parents feel really a bit bogged down by the idea of getting a baby ready to go outside. Especially people with like first-time parents. You know, I always say to them, getting a baby ready to go outside is not as bad as getting a toddler to go outside, but that's a whole other story. But it can feel like an Olympic sport, right? By the time you're done, you're like sweating and like, you know, so, and you always have to really time it, right? So the baby needs to eat, the baby needs to have a clean, like you do want to change the baby, all that kind of stuff. You know, you got to get all the clothes sorted. You got to get your boots on. If you're there without any help, you're doing it all on your own. But I always say that it's so rewarding, right? It's a lot of work to get out the door, but honestly, like just, you know, getting that kind of rush of oxytocin just from being outside is just going to make your whole day better. And even I always recommend too, having a bit of a schedule. If you can, if that's the kind of person you are. So, you know, you wake up, you have your breakfast, you do your morning thing, and you're like, okay, like, you know, 10 or 10:30, we'll go for our morning walk, right? And then you're like, oh, we have a walk, then we have like our lunch and then a nap or whatever. So then you kind of have a little bit of a schedule, which I think can be helpful for first-time parents, especially if they're home alone. You know, most of us are not home alone because everyone's working from home, but still, if someone's even in the office working and you're doing a whole day by yourself, some parents find a little bit of a schedule. That way you don't feel like you're being totally lost in this like stay-at-home situation where there's no time, or feel like time isn't like syncing up with anything. So just try to like fit it into your daily routine. And even like night, like now, even when it gets dark so early, I mean, we often will go for a walk after dinner with the kids and just look at the Christmas lights, right?
That's nice too.
So that's pretty as well. You don't get the vitamin D, but you still get the fresh air.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a nice one to do with if you've got older kids. It's a great sort of pre-bedtime thing because it'll help to tire them out just a little bit. You know, and prime them for a really nice sleep. It's also nice if it's just like you and your partner and a new baby, like to get out with your partner after a long day where both of you have maybe been a little too cooped up with work and taking care of the baby. Those are nice things as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think too, like, you know, so if you live in a really suburban environment where you may have the benefit of a garage, you may lean towards having a stroller because you would then have the benefit of being able to get the baby set up in the stroller inside of a garage, warmer area, outside of the elements. Whereas if you're in a more urban environment, you might want to really, if you're pregnant right now and expecting a baby in the next few months, you might want to think more about maybe not investing as much in the stroller and thinking about investing a little heavily more, you know, like in more money than you originally thought, in a really great carrier. Because, you know, especially if you're going up and down, you know, if you're on the second floor of a duplex, or you're in a building, or you're in like an urban row of houses where you'll have to like, you know, like get the baby in and out of a stroller outside, potentially bringing a stroller up and down stairs. That is a whole lot of fuss that can really take the joy out of getting outside. So even having something as simple as a one-piece fabric sling, or like a really inexpensive like Moby style wrap, get at like places like Walmart and things.
Yeah.
Or, you know, all the way up to like really great sort of soft buckled carriers that you can get at dedicated stores and things.
Yeah.
Woven wraps. All of those things are probably going to really benefit the person who is a little more on the go, doesn't have the luxury of like extra space around the house.
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe they have to like walk to do their errands, right? Maybe it's just easier to just get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always found like I raised my kids in an urban environment, and we were always hopping on buses and things, and I found it was so much easier, especially when you're getting on the bus, you know, subway or something, and you've just like all you have to worry about is this and maybe your backpack.
Yes. That's the other thing, is get a backpack if you're going to wear the baby on your front. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And it was just so much easier than, you know, potentially having a bus like past you because there's two people in it to fit this giant stroller.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, these were lots of really great ideas to get outside. And it comes on such a wonderful kind of snowy, cold day here.
Yeah. I was like, this is perfect. We have perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, folks, for joining us for another great little discussion. And thank you, Meghan.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be me, and I'm going to be talking about things that parents are probably overthinking.
That'll be a good one. Yeah.
You know, we're going to pull the hippie mom out.
Nice.
We're going to trot her out, and she's going to give a little guidance for some folks who might be overthinking some stuff. And we're going to help you sort of find some ways to chill out a bit. And, you know, with the goal of enjoying yourself more as a parent and enjoying your baby. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. And the week after is the holidays. Next week technically is the holidays, right?
It is, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Many things,
So I'll be talking next week, but the week after will be like the New Year holiday coming up. And we have a very special episode where all four of us, I know Alex has been very busy and has not been able to be on air since the summer. So Alex, Meghan in Toronto, Meghan, you in Ottawa, and myself here in Hamilton, we'll all be online. We'll all be dressing up and having a bevy. Yay. And we'll be talking about what a crazy year it's been and sending it off.
Yeah. In style.
Hopes for 2021. Yeah. So we hope you join us for a fun hang on that day. And we hope that your holidays are going well. And if you have not signed up for our newsletter, please grab a link. We're going to drop one in the comments this afternoon. Grab a link and join our newsletter. Every Thursday morning, our newsletter goes out, and it includes some exclusive free, usually a printable. But a couple weeks ago, we had a set of social media posts that you could use to tell people to back off when your due date was coming up and stop bugging you. But yeah, we have wonderful handouts that we and our expert guests share with folks just to make your pregnancy, birth, and parenting experience better. So get signed up, folks. Thanks again for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week. Take care.
Thanks.